Hey everybody, today I want to talk to you about these cool little gadgets. Don't those look neat? This is my response to quite a bit of frustration that I had looking for good timers for the darkroom. I wanted to be able to do my developing, my printing in a way that fit my style. And it was frustrating because I couldn't find anything on the market that really fit what I was looking for. These are the kinds of timers that I used. I actually was using a stopwatch like this, and it works great for developing prints, except I'm fumble fingers, and I dropped it in the developer probably about 5 times. And I realized I needed something better. Then I got the Patterson triple timer. This is supposed to be designed for photographers. It stinks. Not only is it almost impossible to read under the safe light, but this little yellow slider is used to select which of the timers you're controlling, and it goes the opposite way you would think it would go. You slide it to the top to control the bottom timer, and to the bottom to control the top timer. And there's a couple of extra detents. There's actually, I think, 5 positions on this thing. And the only way you know which position you're in is by reading this impossible to read under good light, white text printed on a yellow background in those little windows. Another one I tried, and I really wanted to like using this one, is this guy, the good old-fashioned Gray Lab timer. If it was good enough for my mom's darkroom, it's good enough for me. But it does things in a strange way. This is really meant for controlling your enlarger. It is a countdown timer with alarm. So you would set it to something and it will control your enlarger, turn off, and it'll shut your enlarger off. If you want to use for timing something, it's got this scary loud buzzer that will make you jump, but for stopwatch kind of things, this doesn't do a very good job. This is the Smith's timer. This thing is actually a very good timer for doing darkroom prints. They haven't been made in years, but if you can get one, they work great. The main reason why I decided to make my own was because one day the hands fell off of this one, the minute hand fell off, and I knew I was going to have to take it all apart in order to put the minute hand back on. And at that point I said, let me just make a good timer that'll work perfect. And that was the beginning. That's why I made these. There's really 3 things you use timers for in the darkroom. 3 separate kind of tasks. One of them is for developing film in the Patterson tank. This is more of a kitchen timer kind of thing. You're going to do your inversions, you're going to time for maybe 5 minutes, that kind of thing. The second use of timers in the darkroom is for the enlarger. You will use something that actually shuts a relay that turns the enlarger lamp on, and it opens the relay, shuts the lamp off, and that's going to be precision down to the second, that kind of a thing. Very different kind of a timer. And the third kind is for when you're doing your prints. You'll be using more of a stopwatch to count the, let's just say a minute or so that you have the paper in a developer, and then 10 seconds in the stop bath, and then maybe 30 seconds in your fixer. That's all done more with a stopwatch than anything else. So again, there's 3 different kinds of timers we use in the darkroom. And I made my gadgets, my custom timer, to do 2 of those. These do not handle the enlarger. For the enlarger, you need something that's going to handle electrical power, and I didn't want to go that route. Besides, I've got this really fancy one that does f-stops and everything. That works just fine. No fixing needed there. These, on the other hand, solve the problem of doing film and developing prints. This one is set up like a stopwatch. Followed the design of the venerable Smith's timer. Green for start, red for stop, and black for reset. Same here. Green for start, red for stop, and black for reset. If it was good enough for Smiths, it's good enough for me. Put your paper in a developer and press start. Wait 1 minute, and then slide the paper into the stop bath and press reset. Wait 10 seconds. Then put the paper in the fixer and press reset again. And now wait 30 seconds. When you're done, press stop. I realized once I had made the perfect Darkroom stopwatch timer for making prints, I could add other features, like a kitchen timer mode. This one counts down and sounds an alarm when it hits 0. Just press the black button to add minutes. Green starts. When it hits 0, it sounds the alarm. Red stops. To reset, press and hold black. You want to bake something in the oven that takes 45 minutes? Just hold the black button. And there you go. It counts up by 5s. Imagine you got your film in the Patterson tank and you're going to develop it for 5 minutes. Take your timer, press the black button 5 times, and press green as you start your inversions. Start flipping your tank. Every minute the timer will make a special tone to let you know you need to do your inversions. All done. You don't need 2 of these to have the 2 different modes. Each one of them does both modes. Just press red and green together. When you go to stopwatch mode, it'll flash an S for stopwatch. And then when you go to kitchen timer mode, it flashes an A for alarm. I used A because I couldn't make a T for timer. So, stopwatch, alarm. If you don't like the ticking sound, press red and black together. You want those delicious ticks back? Green and black. There you go. I made the interface as simple as I could without any faffing about. One thing I want to mention is that I can't sell these things. I wish I could, because I know there'd be a lot of people that'll be interested, but it takes about an hour to do a proper job of assembling one of these. So I would have to charge such a exorbitant price to make it worth my time. I just can't do that. What I did do is I've provided everything you need to build one of these on your own. I give you a GitHub repository that has the source code, and I have the 3D models so that you can print or have printed the case for this. It's just a matter of buying a bunch of little parts and figuring out how to put it together. If you have any questions, of course, put them in the comments and I'll try to answer them. These are the parts that I used in this project. Let's start with the display. This is a TM1637 4-digit LED display. These are common parts. You can find them in many colors. Get a red one if you're going to use this in the darkroom. This is an Arduino Nano. There's many varieties. You don't need anything fancy. In order to make the wiring simpler, I use this little socket for the Nano, and it has all these little screw terminals. I have 3 amazing anodized aluminum buttons. There's a little buzzer module. It has 2 little pins on the back, and it makes clicks and buzzes and beeps. And finally, this little card provides the 5 volts that are needed for the rest of the parts. When you make a project like this, you might think about using a little jack like this on the back of the project box. It has a USB connector that you could plug a cable into, and it gives you a red and black wire that supposedly provide plus 5 volts and ground. A lot of cheap electronics devices that have built-in batteries will have a USB-C plug like this, but you'll find out that your laptop charger or your Apple charger won't charge the device. That's because the manufacturers use this cheap kind of 2-wire jack that doesn't have any logic built into it. And they'll give you a cheap USB-C to USB-A cable, and that's actually the secret. The cable, because it's USB-A on one end, will always provide 5 volts. And that's why the darn thing only charges using their cheap cable, and your nice charger won't work. I don't want to have to deal with that. I want any USB cable to work. One easy way to handle this is to use what's called a USB-C trigger module. And what you do is you plug your cable into it, and you'll see that it lights up. It's a little blue light that tells you it's producing 5 volts. I can press this button here and switch between the voltages that it's actually asking for. Now it's 9 volts, 12, 15, and 20. This cable isn't capable of producing 12, 15, or 20, and it tells you that by flashing. So I can press it again, back to 5 volts, 9 volts, and the power is going to come out on these 2 screw terminals. Once you find the voltage you want, you can lock it in by putting a solder bridge on one of these pairs of pads. You'll see the first set of pads is for 5 volts. So that way you can lock it in permanently so you don't run the risk of bumping this and suddenly your project is now getting 9 volts when you expected 5. These are cheap. They're just a few dollars, just like all these other parts. They're all just a few dollars. Problem is, you can't buy just one. You end up buying like 4 of them. The case is held together by 4 M3 screws. And then it just comes apart. I put a little bit of extra effort into this one, and I use these nice connectors so that it looks elegant. You don't need to do that. You can just do point-to-point wiring. You see the display on this side. Those are the 3 buttons held in place with their the nuts that come on them. And we have the Arduino in its socket. Tucked down in this corner is the little speaker, and then over here is that USB trigger module. Here's one of my prototypes. You'll notice it's a little bit different, but you get the picture. There's this open space in the bottom, and the socket for the Arduino fits in there perfectly. What you do is you squeeze some hot glue in there and you go blop like that, and it'll hold it quite firmly. Likewise, there's a little pad on this side that's designed specifically for this USB-C trigger module. Fits right there. Again, hot glue in place. The little speaker fits in this tiny spot down here and just tucks right in there, and then you can use a bit of hot glue to hold that in place. The display fits in this opening, just like that. And then the buttons themselves, they come with a big 6-sided nut, and they fit perfectly in these holes, and the nut holds them in place. To hold the case together, I used these. These are little brass inserts, threaded inserts, and these are M3 size. And what you do with these is you design the part with holes that are just large enough for this narrower section on the tip. And you'll see that the brass insert fits kind of snugly there. And then you take a soldering iron and heat that up, and it will just slide on in with a little bit of a rocking motion, and then it'll look like this. You'll notice that the little brass inserts are now flush with the surface. If you do 3D printing, you probably used these for projects before. They're really handy, and it's worth having a supply of them. Just like it's worth having a supply of M3 screws. With both of them open side by side, you can see that the green one I didn't use the fancy connectors on. I just did point-to-point wiring. There's nothing wrong with that. It works just fine. It's a little bit faster. Probably the most fiddly part is to get this bezel held in place. The bezel holds some red gel. This is just optical gel, and it's really cheap. You can buy this filter gel for maybe $10 for a dozen sheets or something like that. I don't know how much I paid, but it's just thin stuff you can cut with scissors. Cut it to size, place it on top of the display, and then put this bezel in place. The problem with the bezel is that it's too flimsy to hot glue. Not only do you burn your fingers when you're trying to get the glue on there, but the glue is going to be hot enough that it'll start causing the part to warp. And so what I ended up doing was I redesigned the bezel to not just have this one step. I put a second step so that it's held a little distance away from the opening. And that gave me a place where I could put a bead of special UV curing resin inside there. Comes in a kit like this. A little pen, and one end has a little pen tip. And you squeeze this, and it squeezes out a bead of resin. Once you get that in place, you take the business end here, turn it on, and shine it, and the UV light will harden the resin. I was able to take that little pen and put a bead of resin inside these grooves, and then use the UV light to cure it. This kit is from Bondic, and it's one of the most common ones out there. You'll be happy with this. It works great. Putting these together is a little tricky. The wires seem to get in the way, and I typically just take the Allen wrench and sort of tuck them down in there so I get it shut, and then put the screws in place. And if you want it to look extra snazzy, get yourself some adhesive-backed cork that you can put on the bottom. Just like that. You might ask, why do I have two of them? Well, that's easy. You can't buy any of these parts individually. I've got 5 of the displays and 4 Arduinos and 3 buttons and 8 speakers. So why not build 2 of them? You don't need to build 2. You can build just 1. But it's kind of cool to have them in different colors and maybe have them in different places in the house. You don't need to use these just in a darkroom. You can use them all over the house. Dinner is served. The one thing that's missing is they're not battery powered. And there's a very good reason for that. It's because when I started looking into how to put a battery in one of those lithium-ion batteries, I went down a whole rabbit hole, and I learned that it is not trivial to have a battery charging while a device is being used. All the little cards and everything that maintain those batteries, they really don't want you to be using the device at the same time that the battery's charging. But that's really the whole point. I want this to be super convenient. Hey, if it's not charged, I want to be able to plug it in and have it start working even though it's charging at the same time. Because of that, I've got to do a lot more homework to learn how to convince the battery charging circuit to function properly when I'm using the device. One of these days I'll solve that problem. That's not today. It's for the future. So there you have it. These little devices work great. I was so happy when I finally finished this project. I wasn't sure how it would work out, and it works beautifully. I use these all the time, not only in the darkroom, but other places in the house, like I showed you my cooking there. So if you're interested, download all the source code and the models and make one of your own. It's not that complicated, and because of the fact that you can't buy these parts individually, you can make like 3 or 4 of them like I did. That's all I got for you today. Thank you for watching. Now go out and shoot a roll.